And welcome back, everybody. This is Just Jocelyn, and I'm your host, Jocelyn. So I have three lovely people here that are running for representatives in Amherst, which is, District 34. And we're discussing the hot topics, letting you know how they feel, what they think. But it's also a chance to educate yourself and be able to go back and ask your representatives the same questions, because everybody needs to ask the questions, hear the answers, and then think about it and decide, what do you want to do? How do you want to vote? Which side do you want to be on? Or if it's morally unethical for you, or you just can't wrap your head around it. This is what these discussions are about, not to bash each other, but to truly point out the differences. And I don't think that's done enough. So let's go to sanctuary cities, and let's go to you, Terry.
Yeah, basically our opposition wants to vote and have sanctuary cities in the state. And if you look at what's going on in Massachusetts, you can see how badly that's worked out for them. It's the Massachusetts become a magnet for illegal aliens. They've got hundreds of thousands came into Massachusetts. They're all over the place. They're trying to house them in hotels, motels, gymnasiums.
Schools.
Yeah, schools, the airport. They're saying it's going to cost billions of dollars to support these illegal aliens, and they're talking about cutting benefits to residents because of this. So it's been very bad. Also, it brings in gangs. They have a lot of gang issues and fentanyl coming in, which finds its way up to New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're against that. The Republicans are against sanctuary cities. We don't believe that we should have sanctuary cities in this state. We don't believe that illegals should be given driver's licenses. In Massachusetts, they allow them to vote in local elections, and it's just a matter of time before they're going to vie for them to vote in federal elections as well. Mm-hmm. So we say no to that. We think that it's a very bad idea, and yet our Democrat representatives in Amherst all voted for that. And I don't believe the average people that live in Amherst want Nashua and Manchester, the whole state, to become a sanctuary state or have sanctuary cities. So we're against it, and we think they're crazy.
So to me, when you bring the illegal aliens in, you're actually discriminating against taxpayers. You're discriminating against people that are paying for their own health care. You're discriminating. You've made another class of people, giving them everything that we worked for, that you took our taxes. You took our taxes from our paychecks, from our Social Security, taxed, any capital gains, property taxes, which are absolutely through the roof. And again, show me by what authority in the Constitution does that come from? But most importantly, when you want to use buzzwords, it's discrimination. And everybody's going, okay. Discrimination. You are making another class of people, which is against the citizens of New Hampshire, the citizens of the United States, taking our money to fund them. And at no point was anything, the Constitution changed, because it tells you what you can use your taxes for and what you can't. And everybody's always screaming bloody murder, but here right now we're looking at another class of people and extreme discrimination.
And this is while they're saying that Social Security could run into trouble by 2035. I mean, I'm 65. I just went on Social Security, paid in my whole professional life, and now they're telling me that by the time I reach 75, they're going to start cutting my benefits. I think there's something wrong with that. And meanwhile, they're rolling out the red carpet and spending in Massachusetts billions of dollars on illegal aliens. And they've done studies that shows that. Believe me, I'm an immigrant myself. I came from Canada. I think legal immigration is great. And I think, bringing in people to help grow the country is a good idea. But this idea of just opening up the border and letting anybody and everybody in is crazy. And it's not going to be fair to us. And it's certainly not going to be fair to seniors when they see that they're not going to get their Social Security because of all these payouts. They're going to go to the hospital and they'll be waiting in lines. And this is just wrong. I'm sorry.
Thank you. What say you, Miss Diane?
I think that some of the major cities that have become sanctuary cities for a while now are experiencing such a overwhelming effect on all of their resources and infrastructure that they're starting to backpedal. And specifically, say, Chicago, Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, just lost in the first round at the polls. She's not going to be mayor anymore because people are so fed up. And one of the things in Chicago specifically is the murder rate. It's just out of control. And it's because, number one, they're defunding the police, and number two, they have all these illegal aliens committing crimes. And between those two factors, they're violent crimes, it's through the roof. So that's what I see as some people are backpedaling now. They realize this is a bad idea. New York City, that mayor has made remarks like, we just can't do this, the way we were planning.
Do you think that it was a nice thing to say, like the Roe v. Wade? This was a nice thing to say, we're a sanctuary city, we're a sanctuary state. But now that the shoe is on the other foot and they're seeing the extreme cost, and maybe there's a little bit of guilt somewhere in those bodies and those brains that they're saying, wait a minute, we can't afford this. And then the other side kicks in and says, well, just tax the heck out of everybody. Oh, okay, we'll do that. But
cut benefits, yeah.
Or cut benefits. So too bad we're taking out $147 a month for your Medicare, and you're not getting any health care whatsoever. And too bad that your doctor's appointment is a year and a half away, which is happening right now. I think buyer's remorse, yes. A little bit of that. What say you, Mr. Ross?
Well, I say we simply cannot afford it. It's just the costs associated with it are completely out of control. Just a couple of data points here. In New York City, the idea that they're sanctuary city and so forth, the idea that the illegal migrants came there to get jobs is simply not true, because they offered them all free work permits, and only 2% took them up on it. Really? Yes. So the vast majority of illegal immigrants come here and go on welfare. Okay. They don't come here and get jobs. It depends on who you talk to, but somewhere between 75 and 90% of all the illegal migrants into our country do nothing other than go on welfare when they get here. The people who advocate for them to come here say it's 75%. The people who are against them say it's 90%. But just to put that number in perspective, for every person that goes on welfare, it costs the taxpayer about $30,000 per year. Now, the average person of median income pays around $15,000 worth of taxes, state total, and so forth. So what that means is that for every illegal alien who is collecting welfare, it's absorbing the tax of 2 Americans of median income. So you think you're paying your taxes to pave the streets and plow the roads and put your kids through school. You and your neighbor, you just paid for one illegal alien, and we're bringing millions and millions of those people in here every year.
And we're not bringing them. Because I'm not.
Yeah, we're allowing them to enter the country. Our government.
We, the people, are not pushing our government and our representatives to follow their oath of office and do as you swore. And I'm sorry if you only swore half the oath. It's still intent, and you're not following it. And so, therefore, who's being punished? Again, discriminated against and punished.
And that's another aspect of the whole illegal immigration story. And people on the right tend to say they're just bringing them in to vote, okay, which is true. They are bringing them in and they are voting. But the other side of that coin is that what is the size and growth of the welfare state if we're bringing millions and millions of people in to go on welfare? Because remember, the welfare state grows based on the number of people on welfare at a disproportionate rate.
Correct.
Because for every dollar that the welfare recipient gets, $3 goes to infrastructure and overhead. So what's happening is the welfare state, one of the biggest growth jobs in the country today, are social workers working for welfare organizations, okay? What do those people do? They all get paid with our tax dollars. They all join government sector unions and so forth.
So we're growing the government.
That's
which
a
is
way to
sucking it up.
funnel more money to a particular party.
Yep.
Because all of a sudden, all that money is going into these programs. Most of it is not getting to the recipients,
Correct.
the welfare
As usual.
recipients. Most of it is going to the overhead. And a lot of that overhead then gets funneled back
Yep.
to a particular party.
Yes. So, these are the truths here, people. And again, all these conversations boil back to, it's not in the New Hampshire Constitution. There are exact reasons and that our taxes should be spent. And what's happening is the representatives, local, in your town and city, state, and federal, are just making it up. What can we go pay? Let's get some more money. How can we look good? Who can we get on the payroll? And none of it is constitutional. And we have got to read the Constitution and know the laws. And we need to say, no, you cannot use those taxes. In Massachusetts, they actually found that there's a very, very set, there's a law that says you cannot do that. And they're going to start going after the governor for that. But we've got about 12 minutes, and I want you all to be able to have a closing statement about what you'd really like to do for Amherst, which, again, is important because it all plays into what happens in the state. But let's go with taxation, and we're going to start with Russ, because you're the money.
I'm the numbers guy.
The numbers guy.
Well, New Hampshire, we're in a very favorable position because we do have the lowest taxes of all the 6 New England states.
Because
we have the lowest spending of the 6 New England states.
But we also
we
don't have
also
sales tax, and we don't have income
Right,
tax, but we
right.
have
property
high
tax.
property
We have high
taxes.
property tax. We have dividends and income tax, which is diminishing. We have business property tax, business enterprise tax, and so forth. Now, if you own your own business in New Hampshire, if you're an entrepreneur and you have your own business, then obviously you're paying more taxes than someone who is a salaried employee for
Right.
a company like me. And I understand that. Obviously, the state needs some money somewhere, but in general, taxes in New Hampshire are relatively low because our spending is relatively low.
Okay.
If you look in the last, say, 50 years, New Hampshire was always in the top 10 as far as the lowest taxed states in the country. Okay, we've always been the lowest tax state in New England, and we're always in the top 10 among the lowest tax states in the country. Unfortunately, around 2005, 2006 timeframe, we started to lose that advantage where we were relative to other states, and we dropped down to the lower half.
Okay.
Okay, that corresponded to a change in leadership in the State House. Okay. Fortunately, though, by 2010, the State House had flipped back to our side of the column, and then by 2017, we had the corner office again. And so we've seen our taxes now, relative to every other state in New England, get better, and against all the other states in the country get better. So now we're in last I looked, we're about the 19th in the whole country.
All right.
We're head and shoulders above every other state in New England. The closest other state, as far as tax burden, is like number 40. Okay.
Wow.
The other 5 states in New England are all in the bottom 10. Okay. So we're doing well. Now, what does that mean? I mean, so you say low taxes. So what? What does that? What does that mean? What that means is that our state has the most favorable economic outlook of all the states in New England.
Okay.
So you look on these economic forecasts. There's a variety of people that do this, but New Hampshire always is in top 10, top 15 states in the country as a place to own a business, start a business,
Start a family.
buy
a house.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Now, we know housing costs are high now.
Very.
Yep, that is a problem. But you can solve that problem if you have a healthy business climate. If companies are coming into the state,
And paying
if
into
companies
the
are
taxes,
expanding and so forth, if jobs are growing, then the housing cost problem will solve itself. It might not solve itself tomorrow, but it will solve itself.
Down the road.
But it's harder to solve if you're number 49 out of 50 rather than if you're number 15 out of 50. So New Hampshire, yes, acknowledge we do have some problems there, but we are getting better. So the key, though, is keeping taxes under control. There's other ways that we need to think about, too, just overall state spending and so forth, state employees, state pension benefits and things like that. Those are all important, and those are all solvable problems if you're in a position where you're at the top of the heap. Then it's
can work on
easier to
those
solve
problems,
problems.
right.
So cautionary tale looking at other states in New England. Vermont is a state in many ways similar to New Hampshire. They lost the Republican majority in their House in the late 80s. They're consistently in the lowest 5 states in the country as far as their business climate.
So that's a really
So
visible
If you let the House and the Senate
flip.
away and flip for too long, then bad things happen. The other thing is, I know we're in a very competitive governor's race right now, and that's all well and good, but control of the corner office is not necessarily the answer to the problem, because I look at our states to the south and I see Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut all have had Republican governors generally about half the time, where there'll be long periods of time where they'll have Republican governors. But in the last 50 years, all 3 of those states, except for maybe like 2 years, Democrat domination of House and Senate, those states
And they
are in
can't-
the lowest
right.
10 in the country. So the key is to keep the
Local.
House and the Senate
Yep.
in the R column here in New Hampshire. That's what guarantees that we'll have a good, favorable business climate and the state can grow.
I love it. Okay, Miss Diane, can you add to that? That's pretty.
I spent the last 3 years on the Ways and Means Committee
Okay.
in town in Amherst, and Russ was there with me for 2 of those years.
Good fun.
But you learn how to do line by line budget. And I asked the same, right at the beginning, I asked the same question you asked. Why do we need to start with last year's budget to work on? Why can't we start from zero? And I never got a really good answer on that.
Because that's the way it's always done.
Essentially, that's what I was told, yes. But in Concord, I look forward to looking at the budget and trying to make common sense decisions. That's what we're all about, the 3 of us, common sense for Amherst. And, with building on what Russ has already said, I think we can do it.
I love it. All right, Mr. Terry, bring it home.
Okay, I'm a member of the Granite State Taxpayers. This is a really conservative group. I did their survey this year. I got a perfect score, which means I'm hyper fiscal conservative. But the cool thing they do is they rate the legislators on how fiscally conservative they are based on their votes. It's really hard to get up to like the 95, 98% mark, but a number of really good legislators do that. And I know the 3 of us would want to be in that category. But when you look at the Democrats and their rating, it's like 2%, 6%, maybe 10%. They all stink. And they're not fiscally conservative at all. They're not taking care of your taxpayers' dollars. They're trying to vote for every extra piece of spending they can get, and they're always on the wrong side of it. So if you're ever interested, go to the Granite State Taxpayer website and see how the ratings go. And it's like the Democrats are just so far away from it. They're almost like don't even blip the scale. So when the 3 of us get there, we'll make sure that your tax dollars are well spent. I've more or less taken a pledge, no new taxes. So that's kind of where we're at.
Do you think that we have legislators that are not, how would I put this, that are really not listening to their constituents and are they really not comprehending the cost and the inflation and grocery prices and gas prices? And I know there's not, and you can't individually and maybe even collectively say, well, I'm like somebody did today. Day one, I'm bringing grocery prices down. I'm going to tax them. That's what makes your food prices go up. Even I know that. So do you think that it's just the platform? It's just be in lockstep because otherwise you're getting in trouble? Or they're just ignoring their constituents and doing as they darn well please? I mean, how does anybody do that? I mean, I just don't understand.
Well, I think some of the people at the top positions in the state are out of touch. I mean, you know, we might go to the gas station and say, "Oh, look, they just jacked the gas price up to $3.50 a gallon." Quite honestly, if you're an engineer working on the 495 and your family's making 150, 200,000 bucks a year, it's not going to be that big a deal if you have to pay an extra 20 or 30 bucks a month in gasoline. But the people who represent, the Democrats represent Amherst, don't realize that there are people who that $30 a month at the gas station might make a difference whether they can take their medications next month.
Correct.
And they'll be cutting
Food
their pills
that
in
you
half.
buy, yeah.
Actually, I was at Walmart the other day, and I heard this lady having a conversation with the pharmacist about how she's cutting her pills in half. I couldn't believe it. I mean, you know, it's crazy.
That's insane.
So I think the Democrats are out of touch. I think the Republicans are more the party of the people in the state. I mean, we get around. I mean, I'll talk to a guy on a Harley. I'm a motorcycle rider myself. We'll talk to anybody, and that's how you make sensible laws and respect people's taxpayers' money, is by getting out of the bubble and just talking to regular people. You know,
Some people might be well-meaning. So there might be some people in Concord who are well-meaning. They say, well, if we have this program, it'll do all this wonderful stuff. Well, will it? Will it not? Don't know. But the point is that show me a state that has introduced higher taxes and improved their quality of life. I cannot think
there
of any
isn't
state.
one.
In fact, there have been many of these think tanks that have done studies on this. One of my favorite economists is Art Laffer. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Yep.
the Laffer curve.
Yeah, Laffer curve. But Art Laffer, he did a very extensive study on that, because over the last 20, 30 years, there's been several states that were like New Hampshire that didn't have sales and income tax, and then they introduced sales and income tax. And in none of those states did the quality of life improve. And, you know, how do you measure quality of life? Well, you look at things like high school graduation rates, and are people moving to the state or moving out of the state, and things like that. So there's ways that they can measure that.
Yeah.
And the point is that you don't tax your way to higher quality of life. We have a very high quality of life here in New Hampshire. We got the mountains, we got the lakes, we got the sea coast, we got all that great stuff. Okay?
Bears, we got bears.
We got bears too. Yep.
I think there might be a bobcat in my backyard.
Oh, cool.
But the point is, you don't increase taxes and make your quality of life better. It just doesn't happen. And it's never happened in any other state. So there's plenty of data to support that.
So again, follow the Constitution, follow the real laws, realize it's not your money.
Yes.
And
Is this the Constitution here?
that's both. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Because there's one part of our Constitution which is very, very interesting in our Bill of Rights, where it requires legislatures to be frugal. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did? Okay,
I
well
did.
then I won't pull that out for you.
That's okay.
Okay.
So look it up, and actually we'll throw that up there.
Frugality.
Frugality. Well, there's also
and-
morality and piety as well that people like to
and they have to
ignore.
They have to be that constantly. You can't be part-time frugal in New Hampshire.
Right.
You have to be frugal constantly if you're in the legislature.
And that's, why we need people like you three, and why we, the people, have to hold them accountable, all of the legislators accountable, because you have to be frugal 24/7. Not when it's convenient or when it feels good or somebody pressured you. It has to be 24/7. And again, your oath of office counts because you're trampling on people's rights. And when a few of us decide to say, that's a discrimination suit, we've got a lot of pro se litigants going on in this state, and we're fighting pretty darn hard for the rights of people based on the Constitution. So in our last minute, I'm just going to say to everybody, you want to make just a really quick statement of what kind of help you need and what would be good?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we have a tough race against these Democrats. We're having to raise, quite a bit of money to do things like mailers, signs, and we're fighting hard. I mean, I know the three of us, we're working 20, 30 hours a week. So anyone who can help us as a volunteer, and certainly campaign donations, because it costs us money to run. and we have fairly ambitious plans about our spending in terms of what it's going to take to get our message out there, especially showing that Democrats in our town are walking around like normal people, and then they're going up to Concord and they're following their party off a cliff like lemmings. So it's very important for us to keep a majority, and maybe a 20, 40 seat majority in the state. We need to flip our town red. We need to get those Dems out. We need the three of us in. And if we do that, then we can go down to Concord. We can keep the state great. We can improve on it. But that's the only way that we can assure that the future of the state stays intact. So we need your help volunteering, campaign donations. You can go to our website. Can I give my phone number over? Is that
I wouldn't. I'd stick with the website.
We'll stick with the website.
Yep. So we've got Terry 4, the number 4, Amherst.com.
Russ for Amherst.com.
Diane for Amherst.com.
Okay. And
Can I just add something real quick?
Absolutely. We've got just about a minute.
Just about a minute, okay. In addition to all the stuff that Terry said, biggest thing that I think people can do is just talk about it. We don't know everybody in Amherst, obviously, so talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to the people at your church, talk to the people at the American Legion Hall or whatever, and tell them we're great people. We don't have three heads. We're good people. We just want to do a good job for everybody up in Concord, represent everybody in Amherst.
There you go.
And keep
Represent
things
everybody.
going good and keep New Hampshire a great place to live.
And make sure they tick the box
Yeah.
for Diane, Russ, and Terry. Don't
Yeah.
just
All
go
three.
in and
All
you got to
three.
go all the
Yeah.
way. You're voting for somebody at the top of the ticket. You got to vote
Right.
for us three, because it's not just what's happening federally, it's what's happening here that counts. Diane, do you want to add anything? Or?
No,
big wrap-up.
that's perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think people can trust us to act as if their money is our money, and to
Yep.
be frugal.
I love that. I really do. Because if your rights are money, everybody'd care about them, wouldn't they? So I want to say thank you to everybody. Make sure you share. This show will be out. And I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Have an absolutely
Thanks,
fabulous
Jocelyn.
night. You're welcome.
Thank you.